Hey guys, today's question is longest square streak in an array. In this question, we are given with an integer array nums here, and we have to find some sequences, length of subsequence. A subsequence of num is called a square streak if the length of the subsequence is at least 2, and after sorting the subsequence, each element except the first element is the square of the previous number. So what does it mean? Like if we sort this array, this will look like 2, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 16. So you can see that 4 is square of 2 and 16 is square of 4. Okay, so we found a subsequence of length 3. Okay, choose the subsequence 4, 16, 2. After sorting it, it becomes 2, 4, 16, and this is the longest subsequence we can get that have all the elements squares of the previous elements. Okay, except the first element. So we have to return the longest square streak in the nums. Okay, longest subsequence that we can make of this type, and otherwise we have to return -1 if we don't find any subsequence of length greater than equals to 2. And it is defined a subsequence is an array. It is not a subarray, it is subsequence. So we can choose any element from here, like 2 was here, 4 was here, 16 was here, but we can choose any element because it is a subsequence. So as we are talking about subsequence, we can simply sort the array. Okay, and we also need to sort the array afterwards because we have to check, like for 2, 4, 16, we have to check for this element was the previous element present, the square root of this element was present or not. For this 16 we also need to check 4 was present or not. So simply we will first sort the array. So let me first explain what we will do, what will be our approach before sorting the array. Like this is the array. Okay, now what we want to do, we will choose an element, a smaller element, and we will check if the square of this element exists or not. Okay, 4 exists. After that, for this 4 we will check 16 exists or not. For this 16 we will check 256 exists or not in the array. So checking every array is taking O of n complexity. So we will first simply sort the array that we have to check in only right side. Okay, so let me explain first. So first we will sort the array. Okay, and now after sorting the array, nums will look like something like 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, and 16. Okay, now we iterate from left to right. We come over this 2, and now to make a subsequence we have to check if the square of this element exists or not. So this 4 exists. Okay, after this 4 we have to check if 16 exists or not. Okay, so the 16 exists. So we have found 3 elements in a row. Okay, so the longest subsequence length we have found is 3. After that we will check if the square of 16 exists or not, 256, but 256 doesn't exist. So to check if this element exists or not, we have to iterate over right side. Okay, and to checking for every element we have to iterate, we have to use, the complexity will be linear. Okay, because for this 2 you can see we are going from extreme left to extreme right. For this 4 we have to go from to extreme right. Okay, so what we can do is we will simply store these elements inside or unordered map. So if the 4 exists, okay, we can directly tell if this exists or not in O of 1 complexity, and then we can directly go from 2 to 4 in constant complexity and 4 to 16. Okay, now after that, as we have calculated the longest subsequence from 2 is 3, we come over this 3 and check if 9 exists or not. If 9 doesn't exist, we simply break. For this 4, okay, now you can see for this 4 we don't need to check anything because square of 4 is 16, but the 4 is already checked in the subsequence of 2. Okay, so this will give length shorter only. Okay, because the root of this element already exists. So, and we have to find the longest length. So for this 4 we are getting only 2 length because this 2 is not included. So what we can see, if first when we included these elements 4 and 16, then we have to mark these elements visited so that we don't do these operations again, and we can reduce some time complexity by that. Okay, so let's try to solve this to understand well. So as I said, first we will sort the array. So sort nums dot begin. stored, and now we will store the elements in unordered map to get in O of one time. Okay, so wait a second. Okay, first create an unordered map of type int of int. Let's name it as empty. Now let's take all elements for auto and x in nums. Simply push these elements in map, so mp of x plus plus. Now we have to iterate over this array from left to right and check for every element if it is not visited. Okay, so for int I equals to 0, I less than nums dot size plus plus. So current element is, let's take it as element, and now as given here, the num size can be 10 to the power 5, and the square of 10 to the power 5 is 10 to the power 10. Okay, but 10 to the power 10 exceeds the limit of integers, so we have to take it in the long form. Okay, so long, let's take it as element equals to current element, which is nums of I. Okay. Now let's take sum also, or let's take len equals to 0, that we will use to calculate the current length. Now for this 2, we will go to right side till we find the element, the square element, and it exits, and we increase length and then go to right side again. So while we found the element, so while mp dot count, let's start it from current element, so we have taken length equals to 0. So mp dot count current element if it exists, and also mp of element not equals to -1. As I said, when we found 4, we will mark it as -1 so that we don't check for it again. Okay, so while mp dot count element and mp of element not equals to -1, first we will increase some, sorry, not some, length. Okay, this is found element, and now as I said, we will mark the element as -1 because it is visited and we don't need to visit it again. After that, simply we have to go to square of the element, so element equals to element into element. Now initially let's take answer as -1 because it is mentioned that if we don't found any longest streak greater than 1, then we will -1. So let's take answer as -1 initially, and if the current length is greater than 1, only then we need to update. As it is said, the length of a subsequence is at least 2. Okay, so if length is greater than 1, only then we will update answer equals to max of previous answer and current length. Okay, now after that simply return answer. Let's submit the code. So the code is accepted. Thank you for watching.